What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the OU Daily Sports Podcast. First one of the spring, guys. Very happy to be here. You can tell that they're just thrilled about this, that I drugged them over to the podcast room. Anyways, I'm sports editor Louis Raser, Gracie Rawlings, Jason Batacao. Let's stop talking already and get into football and sports stuff.
Yep.
So first off, just to let you guys know, we have had 3 open spring practices.
Yep.
We were supposed to have one tomorrow, but it got canceled. So yeah, we're going to talk about what we've seen from those practices, players, positions that have of hot topic per se. But quick little injury update. Jason, you want to give them the injury update?
Sure, I'll go for it. Troy Everett got hurt in practice. I think it was the second practice.
Yeah, it was last week sometime. He went down.
I wasn't there for that practice, but it assumed from what I saw from your guys' coverage and everything that was posted on Twitter was kind of gruesome.
Yeah, I didn't see it exactly. All I know is that Brent yesterday confirmed that he's going to have surgery.
Mm-hmm.
He was wearing a brace, like a full leg brace on his left leg. No, but
interesting. Okay.
It was a big brace on his left leg, so he will have surgery for that. Brent says he hopes to get him back by the end of fall camp. Caden Helms looks a lot better.
Yeah.
That's a guy who was talked about a lot last year.
And just was injured all year. I mean, he's made appearances on that one podcast that they have that's like
with him and Nick Anderson.
Yeah, him
Red
and Nick
Dirt
Anderson,
Media.
and then they'll have a bunch of guests come on. But like, I mean, he, from what I've noticed, he looks like he's getting healthier. I know from when we talked to him, he mentioned that he's not full speed yet. He's still dealing with some nagging stuff. He wouldn't go into specifics about it, but he has been in pads. He hasn't been in cleats. He's still been participating in drills for the most part. Seems like he's on track to be ready for fall camp and so forth. I don't know what his availability will be for the spring game, but obviously having him back in OU's tight end room is a plus, especially with how much depth issues they had last year with only having Austin Stogner.
That tight end room, when you think about it, it hasn't been the same in years.
Right.
Like, they haven't had a guy in there in years, since Braden Willis, which I guess was only a couple of years back.
Yeah.
But last year it hurt badly, so having guys like Devon Mitchell, Bauer Sharp, who we'll get into.
Looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But Caden Helms, he was talking to us last week. He is hungry to get back there. That would be a huge addition to the room.
Right.
Other ones, Justin Harrington obviously got his medical waiver. He'll be able to play next year. He's still wearing a brace on that left leg, which he suffered against SMU, I want to say, second game of the year.
It was interesting because didn't he go out in that game and then came back, and then that was after, oh man, I remember after everything that happened with the Art Briles situation, when I was kind of like scouting around the stadium, I literally saw Justin Harrington limping all the way to the Everest Indoor Training Center, and I was like, oh, that injury looks really bad. I don't think I've ever shared that detail on the podcast. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that.
Would have been nice to share that a couple months ago, but
did I not?
I don't think so. I've never heard you say that.
Oh yeah, I remember. Like, I knew it was him. I didn't say anything to him. I just was like walking with my backpack on, and then I saw a very large human being, like tall human being. I mean, Justin Harrington's like a menacing athlete, and he was in like this massive cast and just limping, like very noticeably limping to like wherever he was going, whether it was Everest or so forth, or training facility.
Anyways, he looks much better.
Right.
And then Gentry Williams, he was supposed to be out all spring camp. He's been in pads. This past practice, he was in pads but tennis shoes. So
same situation as Caden.
Yeah, he had labrum surgery, but don't think that'll be too serious as far as bleeding over into the fall. Right. Anywho, enough with injuries. Let's get into standout players from the first couple practices. Gracie, want to go first here? Who stood out to you?
I really liked the true freshman class that OU had coming in. Brent talked a lot about them yesterday at availability, just guys like David Stone and Jaden Jackson on the line. And he also mentioned just Eli Bones and Jaden Hardy's versatility, basically that they could play anywhere. So would be excited to see some true freshmen get some minutes this season.
Right.
Definitely. I think going off that, what stands out to me is PJ on the defensive line. He looks like
big.
Yeah.
a monster. Like
Right.
every time you go to spring practice, he's like the first guy I look for, the first guy I notice. He's going to block a punt this year or a field goal. You saw him last year, like his vert is crazy. He is going to, at least one. But yeah, so he's stood out just in his size. I think year 2 is going to be huge for him.
Right.
I'm excited to see that. But I would have to go probably. We talked about Bauer Sharp. I've been really impressed by him through the spring, the tight end room, and then especially the receivers.
Right.
Deion Burks is quick as hell.
Yeah,
So
He can
fast.
He's so good.
Yeah. Jaden Gibson, really impressed with what I've seen from him. And then
Jaquez, how do you say his first name again? Jaquez Petaway has looked really good. Like, there's been occasions where like his first step is like that, and like he just breaks off the ball. I mean, and we saw that in glimpses of during fall camp last year, and even during a few games. Obviously, with that loaded wide receiver room, I mean, you know, freshman's probably not going to get that much playing time, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a bigger role this year. And OU's already stacked wide receiver room. I mean, he just looks better and looks the part, but I mean, every OU receiver does kind of right now. So
yeah, definitely. And an injury I forgot to mention was Brennan Thompson went down last week in practice on a deep ball. And I don't think he was practicing the other day, or he was off to the side maybe. But yeah, and then I would say, and then talking about the receivers, Jaleel Farouk, seems like just the connection between him and Jackson Arnold is really taking that next step. It looks like a quarterback to a QB1 to wide receiver 1 type of connection. And with the uncertainty around Andrell Anthony, you know, that's huge to have him develop in.
Yeah. And I know Brent's mentioned a lot about Jaleel. Is like he said he said that it was the best version of Jaleel he's seen since his time here. And obviously Brent's been here, 3 years, which is crazy to think about.
Huge. You got to think the Alamo Bowl and the kind of poor performance he had there and the mistakes he had motivated him.
Right, yeah, exactly. So that's been huge. I guess I'll chime in with some of the guys that I've seen in the 2 practices that I've been to. I mean, Billy has been kind of off to the side. I don't know if he's dealing with any injuries, but like just from a leadership perspective, like it seems like he's had not a death grip, but a real grip on like handling like the young guys. You can go read my Billy Bowman story that kind of details how he's been post Alamo Bowl and so forth in his career journey. Just slight plug real quick, shameless plug. But yeah, Billy's leadership seems like it's enhanced even more than it already has. I mean, he's out there kind of as a quasi coach, which has been really interesting and kind of cool to see evolve over, I mean, even the past year of covering OU football. Another guy that I think has been really interesting and it's kind of popped to me. I mean, Caleb Hicks in the running back room has been flashy. I mean, when they're in those, I don't know all the specifics to like football drills, but I mean, he's got a quick step to him. He's been hitting the pads hard. You know, seems like he's, you know, really taking a step up from last year. So that'll be big for OU's running back room that was so inconsistent last year. Another guy, I mean, Javonte Barnes looks like he's back to full speed and full health. And, I mean, that's really good for OU. I mean, I mean,
he's finally healthy. We got answers on him earlier in
the
spring
mystery.
camp.
Yeah,
we got answers on him. Last year he was dealing with setbacks from the surgery he had, that surgery was from an injury that he suffered senior year of high school. Played his freshman year, wanted to play, didn't want to have that surgery and have to sit out. Then he gets the surgery, and then second year, this past year, it just lingers. So very unfortunate. But yeah, that running back room, especially with what we saw from Gavin Sawchuk end of the year, I think it's definitely going to improve this year.
Yeah, just health is the biggest factor for them. And I think
the offensive line. Don't forget about that.
Yeah.
Got to have the big boys blocking for him.
Yeah. I mean, to Gracie's point, I think she makes a great point about David Stone to talk about a little bit about the defensive line. Like David Stone and Jaden Jackson look like they're the part, and they look like they could be like if I didn't know that David Stone and Jay Jackson were highly touted freshman recruits, and it was my first time seeing OU football, I would imagine that they're like sophomores or juniors. They don't look like, like fully grown men, I guess you could say. That's a weird thing to say, but like they look the part. And I like Gracie said, I definitely think that, especially with losing, I'm blanking on his name. What's the guy with the blood clots that?
Oh, Jacob Lacey.
Yeah, losing Jacob Lacey.
Who's been there at practices, by the way.
Really?
Which I think is really cool.
Yeah, right.
He's just been there off to the side, leading drills, kind of like Billy Bowman,
Right.
except not in his jersey.
Right, yeah. I think obviously losing Jacob Lacey, a guy that probably was set to be the starter on the defensive line last year, is tough, but having guys like Jaden Jackson and David Stone contributing at a high level early will probably be huge for OU's defense. So
Definitely. I think Stone, he's, 283 right now?
Yeah. He said his goal when we talked to him was like, to get to 300, plus 300?
Well, he said Jaden Jackson says he wants 300 plus.
Okay.
And he said something like, you can't be light when you go into the SEC. David Stone, he said he's never been this heavy, but like he says he's as quick as he's ever been, as fast, like a shifty. So that's exciting to see if he can gain some weight, get a little bigger, but keep like the quickness, the explosiveness that makes him David Stone.
Right.
But even in one-on-ones and like drills, we've seen him, and like he looks good. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
All right, let's move to a position that intrigues us right now. Left this question kind of open, but Gracie, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think the offensive line is really intriguing. I mean, they graduated most of the line. They lost Caden Green to the portal, and now Troy Everett's hurt. I mean, guys like Josh Bates and Josh Sosa and Garen Hatchett could step in, but I think that's a really interesting kind of dynamic there, just having to kind of revitalize that position and allow the new guys to kind of figure it out. It's going to be interesting to see who kind of steps up.
Yeah, and they brought in so many new guys. You look back to last year, like, I feel like the issue with the line, because they changed it up so many times, and it wasn't that you didn't have the talent there.
It was just they were inconsistent.
Right. Well, not even that. I would say it's just like you didn't have – Brent described it once as you got to have the right 5 guys on the line.
Right.
And, like, I feel like they couldn't find that until the end when they made the move. Jacob Sexton comes in and plays tackle.
Right.
I
feel like I definitely agree with that point. It's almost like the offensive line is like a cake batter, right? If you add too much sugar, it gets like weird. If you add too many eggs, it's like too fluffy. I feel like that's what I think about. And this is a weird example, but like, there were so many moving parts last year in the offensive line. And there were points where I feel like that they were really consistent and had great pass pro and great, run protection. But there was also points where when last year's run game and offensive line was so weird. And we'll see if these young guys can step up and make a name for themselves. Maybe we're just undervaluing the
Alamo Bowl didn't look good though.
No,
and like to my point, like last year you moved so many guys around and whatnot, and like this year you've got a bunch of transfers. You've got like freshmen coming in, so it's like you're gonna have 5 guys who probably all 5 of them have never played with each other. So, like, how do you build that chemistry? How do you make sure that this is the right 5 guys and not just the best 5 guys, the most talented?
And it's like OU has so much talent at their skill positions. I mean, even quarterback, there's a lot of talent there. Like, I mean, Michael Hawkins has looked good. I mean, his release is probably the quickest in the quarterback room, in my opinion. I mean, dude's got it's like 2 seconds. The ball's out. I mean, Jackson's Jackson. I mean, Casey Thompson's no slouch as well. I mean, even though he's, coming back from injuries, like when he's played and he's been healthy, he's played at a very high level. I mean, just literally look at some of his Texas tape when he's faced OU. He literally had like 5 touchdowns, 2-3 years ago when he was battling, Caleb Williams, which is crazy to think about that was almost 2-3 years ago. But yeah, I really think the offensive line is going to be kind of a make or break for OU's offensive success next year. Like, you have all this talent in the running back room. You have all, I think this is probably maybe the best 2-year stint of like OU's wide receiver depth. Like any player I feel like can get 1,000 yards. You have the depth in the quarterback room. It's just like, and even the tight end room is better than what it was last year from our observations. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying completely.
All right, what's a position that intrigues you?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, I'm really intrigued about OU's like secondary. I think the combination of like obviously getting Justin Harrington back, and Dason McCullough kind of playing the will position and being primarily a pass rusher, that's really intriguing to me. Because if you can have, Dason McCullough and still be able to utilize his talents as like a freak athlete, as a pass rusher, but also have Justin Harrington, who I believe is a better, pass defender than Dason was, in the cheetah position. I think that bodes well for, guys like Billy Bowman and Peyton Bowen and Robert Spears Jennings and a Gentry Williams and Des Malone, who, are talented guys, but if like I feel like there's just so much talent in OU's secondary room right now, like and not to say like to sound like a homer or anything, but like they have a lot of competitive depth. Like they have a lot of guys that can move around. You can play Peyton Bowen in the cheetah position, not only because he's a great pass defender, but like he's shown that he's capable in run defense. Like that was, and he's played the cheetah position. Literally, you wrote a story about it last year of like why he might have had to step up in that role. You can, play Dason McCullough and cheetah and even the will linebacker spot. Like those are things that, so I would say a combination with cheetah and the secondary is the most intriguing group for me, just because there's so much depth. Because I feel like it's OU's strong suit. And I mean, Billy's going to be better. Peyton's going to be better. Just, yeah.
I liked Dason at will. Like, I think that he played that position a lot in JUCO, and he was really great at getting off the line and, attacking the ball. So I just think that he will look good in that position. And also, he talked about it a lot, just how comfortable he was there. Yeah. And so I'm kind of excited to see, like, if he makes that transition and if that kind of opens the cheetah position for guys like Billy and Woody and everyone like that. So.
Yeah, definitely. Like you mentioned, I'm excited for Dason year 2. I think like that's such a tough position to learn.
It is.
Cheetah in your first year at OU. And like you mentioned, like at Indiana, he was
a pass
mostly
rusher.
Right. He was mostly pass rushing. Maybe this allows him to do that more. But I just want to say, you talked about linebacker a lot for your position. So we have a script right in front of us, so that you guys know.
I'm sorry.
We have 2 laptops here.
I don't have my laptop.
We have it here, and it says right next to my name, linebacker. And I was going to talk about linebacker.
I didn't say anything.
That's okay. No.
I didn't say anything about Danny Stutzman. I didn't say anything about Kip Lewis or Sammy Omosigo.
But now you are. So those guys. Kobe McKenzie. I'm gonna talk about linebackers.
Okay.
Kobe McKenzie.
You have your shining moment. Go
there's
for it.
There's just a lot of depth there. There's a lot of like uncertainty. Obviously, you have Danny Stutzman leading the group. Everybody knows that. But then maybe Dason steps in. Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jaron is there.
What's gonna happen with Jaron? Yeah,
right. He hasn't. I haven't been impressed by him so far in spring camp. From what we've seen,
I wasn't impressed with him at the latter half of last year.
No,
it was just everywhere. Discipline issues, and I mean, that's part of being.
It all started that UCF game. From there, he just
I would say for me, I started noticing like the discipline issues and like the gaps in coverage. Like it was even tough against SMU. Like there would be points where like who was SMU's quarterback last year? I'm blanking, but like they would run play action. He would fall for the play action, but then realize that it was a pass, and then he would be so late on coverage where like somebody's already streaking downfield. Like those are the types of gaps that I feel like if Jaron's going to take his name to the game to the next level, he's got to like fix that. And I don't know. Yeah.
So since you've talked about linebacker so much, it's okay. I'm gonna pivot here and I'm gonna talk kicker. Because that's like
Liam Evans.
Maybe that's the most. Man, will you not take my talking points? That's like probably the most like position in question right now.
Yeah.
Like Zach Schmidt was not good last year. he looks, from what I've seen, a little better. I haven't seen too much of him.
Mhm.
But like Liam Evans last week, I got it on video. It's on my Twitter. Nailed a 52-yarder. Nailed like around a 45-yarder.
More high school love,
product.
baby. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, more product.
Yeah.
So
More
something-
high, represent.
Yeah, something to watch for. You've got him. You've got other guys in the kicker room. I think you have like the depth this year to say like, okay, if Zach Schmidt's not performing well in the first couple weeks, like we actually have somebody that we can go to be a little more reliable. But anyways, let's talk OU basketball for a little bit.
Porter's got some work to do.
Yeah. Quick little update on like, just want to talk about the entertainment district real quick because that's the hot topic.
Yeah.
Joe Harris yesterday. There's a story up about it. Considered throughout the idea of taking the entertainment district to Moore or OKC or surrounding areas.
And has received backlash.
No kidding. Yeah.
Man, let me just say, I live in Moore, right? I make the commute here to OU. You know, make fun of me. I'm a commuter student, whatever. I think it's so funny that, like, I am from living in Moore. Where are you going to put the entertainment district? Next to the friggin' Costco or, like, where Andy Alligator? I used to work at Andy Alligators. Now that place is, like, a skeleton. I don't know what happened to it. I think COVID killed it. But I'm just like, you're going to have it in that field next to Andy Alligators that's, like, right on the Norman-Moore border?
Well,
like,
I think you're missing the bigger question. Who the hell is going to go?
Nobody.
No, I know.
Go to
Yeah.
Moore to watch OU basketball. OU women's gym, maybe.
Yeah,
you can travel for OU women's gym.
Nobody even drives to Lloyd Noble, which is 2 miles from,
Right.
you know.
Nobody even walks to Lloyd
Yeah,
Noble,
and it's like
less than a mile from the dorms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, and then OKC, like they're gonna beat out the Thunder.
no
Really?
shot.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like
Man, Moore is like literally a suburb town. Like everybody works in Oklahoma City or Norman or even Edmond in some occasions, and then they live in Moore. But like, I don't see somebody like working in Oklahoma City and being like, oh boy, I can't wait to go to that OU basketball game in Moore tonight. Like, no, man, they're just going to go home and watch it on TV or do something else or go to the Thunder game that is right next to their work. Like, that just blows my mind. I just don't see it happening. And, like, the thought of even Oklahoma City, like, they're already building 2 arenas. I mean, they just completed one of them, which is, the state convention or whatever the heck it's called. That's already completed. You're going to have 3 arenas in Oklahoma City? Yeah, bologna sandwich. Bologna freaking sandwich with mayo on it. Okay?
Maybe Porter will just move him to the big house.
Man, I don't think Porter's going to see a new arena. To mince my words, I don't think he's going to see a new arena if they don't make the tournament next year. Like, I don't even know how he still has a job.
That's a good segue
Wait.
to the state of OU basketball right now. Because it's not good.
I have so
bad.
many
It
opinions.
hasn't been good. Oh, I've got a lot of opinions.
I can't
on
wait.
it.
I have
I'll
a lot
let
of
you go
opinions.
first, Mr.
Well, I'll
Raser.
start off end of the tournament. Everybody's like complaining and like, okay, were they a better team than Virginia? Yeah.
Yes.
Like, should they've gotten in? Yeah.
Yes.
Are they winning anything in the tournament?
No.
I mean, it's
First
the
round
tournament.
out.
You can't say for sure.
I don't care.
But,
First
like,
round out.
As far as like talent wise, no. Like they went 2-6 in the last like month of the season. Those 2 wins were Cincinnati in overtime. I'm a
Squeaked it
native from Cincinnati. They're not good. Oklahoma State on a Javion buzzer 3.
beater.
Who's now in the portal?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and also I think a big thing is Porter chose to sit out Rivaldo and Javion in the Big 12 tournament against TCU.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a crazy decision because even though he thought they were in, I mean, to everyone else, they were kind of on the bubble. And he sat his 2 best players at the end of the season. I just think that was, like, not even, like, fathomable.
And like to say, I mean, Porter in his last press conference, you were there, and like he said, basically, what did he say? He said like
Everyone
that's
had
like
him
that
in.
Jameis Winston quote. He said, what did he say? But
He had been
he said like, oh,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have done it, but like every day since December, I've been looking at
Not the
projections.
bubble. Yeah.
he admitted
Who
to
does that?
looking at the
No coach
Yeah.
will say that. Like find me a coach that says that.
Hey,
like, there's no.
In Porter's defense, Bill Self literally came out after Kansas's loss to what was it? Whoever they lost to in the second round. He was
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
they lost to Gonzaga. He literally said verbatim, "I've been waiting for the season
to end."
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill Self, Porter
Porter
Moser.
Moser.
Yeah, no, I know.
Not
I mean,
comparable.
Not the same era.
Yeah.
Like, Bill Self can say what he wants. Bill Self has won championships. He used to win the
Yeah.
Big 12 every
I know.
year.
I'm just
Still
saying.
kind of does.
I'm just saying it hasn't been taboo for a men's basketball coach to say that, but I see where you're coming from.
But it's
that's
taboo
next
for
season. That's not
Porter.
like
Yeah.
what Porter was saying. Like, is more the vibes I got it from it are like, okay, we've been looking at this, so we
It's an
know we're
excuse.
pretty much in. So
Yeah.
you know,
It's an
like
excuse.
we're not worrying too much.
And it's like, you can't do that. The game changes so much. The rankings change so much. Like, they don't matter until they matter.
Man, I was like cackling as I saw NC State win the ACC championship.
Everything that could have gone wrong for OU did.
Literally, I was like, I texted a few friends. I literally 3 days before the Big 12 tournament, I was like, I don't think OU basketball is making it to the tournament. And they were like, you're out of your mind, Jason. You're out of your mind. To all my friends out there that said I was a crazy idiot, I was right.
Well, if we're pulling up receipts, I think it was me. We did a pod with Colton back in. It was after OU was ranked like the number 7 in the country.
Oh,
And I think I was the one who said, I still thought they would make the tournament, but I think I was the one who said, like, yeah, they're about a 10 seed. Or, like, they're about a 9 or a 10
you
seed.
can definitely pull
that.
up the receipts, and I was hyping up OU men's basketball after their win against USC. So,
just depends on the day for what Jason.
yeah, I'm
But
a varied opinion. But it's
anywho, state of OU basketball, it's poor. And, like, they got to get going on the portal. You
Yeah.
guys have both covered them. Gracie, you've covered them recently.
Yeah.
Is Porter going to figure this out? Is he going to get going on the portal?
I mean, I like what he did in the portal, like last season, like during the off season. I thought he brought in some good guys. I mean, maybe some guys that aren't going to go out and score 20 points a game, but that are going to go out and do their job, like Rivaldo and Latre and Javion. But, is he building a team that can compete and can win against, high-level opponents, or can just kind of make their way through their schedule? I don't really know. I mean, what do you think?
I don't
Jason?
think he has the capability right now
Yeah.
to build a team that can really, really compete in, I was about to say the Big 12, but the SEC.
Yeah.
So.
This is the way I look at it, and this is like for me the schism of like NIL, transfer portal, and player development. Like I feel like those are 3 big factors that are going on with like what athletes, or at least basketball recruits, and I'm not a basketball recruit, so maybe I'm just dumb, but like you look at a guy, for example, like Eric Musselman. He's in consideration and maybe even the leading candidate for the USC men's basketball job. Yeah. And having familiarity with like Arkansas's space in the NIL world, like they're behind in the SEC, that's very obvious. And it goes for every single sport. Beyond that, Musselman has still had crazy recruiting classes simply because he has an NBA pedigree. In Musselman's world, if he takes this USC job, which is probably loaded with cash, like USC's NIL is probably way better than Arkansas. And maybe I'm wrong in that avenue, but like, you have LA, you have NIL, you have, a coach that has proven pedigree of developing NBA guys. Like, I feel like every guy that's come from Arkansas the past 5 years has like made some sort of impact. I mean, look at the Thunder, Isaiah Joe, Jalen Williams, not J-Dub, but the center. Like they've played a role, and it's like that combination is like you have to think about that as a college basketball coach. For me, at least when I'm looking at OU's men's basketball program, you have a guy like Otego Oweh who just entered the portal, who like I think could have been an NBA talent. Probably.
I don't know.
He has athleticism.
He has athleticism,
he
but
could be a defender.
He can't shoot.
He can't
out of
shoot,
the
but
mid-range,
like literally,
Jason.
guys get picked in the second round all the time simply because they have the NBA intangibles.
I'll say this: I don't know that there's a guy on OU's past roster this year that is like capable of getting consistent minutes.
No,
in
I
the
know.
NBA.
I'm just saying, like, if you're a GM that's drafting somebody in the second round, you might take a flyer on a guy like Otega Owe because he's super freaky athletic and has shown capabilities of being a great defender. Those are like even Sam Presti years ago would take flyers on guys like a Terrence Ferguson or like a Hamidou Diallo in the second round or like Lou Dort even, who has panned out great for OKC. And I'm not talking about Thunder basketball right now. I'm going to move away from that. But the point being is I don't think Porter Moser has a lot to offer recruits right now. I really don't think so. He hasn't developed anybody to where, like, what, Grant Sherfield's playing in Israel right now? Tanner Groves is playing in Europe? Like, you're going to offer that to players? Like, you know, like a guy like Eric Musselman's like, look, you know, our NIL may not be the best, but I can get you a path to the NBA. You know, I don't think OU's NIL is great. I don't think, you know, there's an investment going on right now because what happens to the arena, you know, we don't know, you know, like the president of the university is saying that he wants to, if this doesn't get passed, which is a reality, they might put the arena in more friggin' Oklahoma, which is like, you can have a McDonald's 5 minutes away from each other, you know, like it just blows my mind. But I think that like in the state of college basketball and the way it's functioning, you have to have some sort of lure. And I feel like Porter, not to say I feel like he used to, you know, like culture building, developing players, but like he doesn't have like a niche that makes players want to come to play for him. At least that's my opinion from what I see, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of just like interesting to think about. 3 or 4 years ago, guys were going to play for schools that they loved because they loved the sport and they loved the program.
Yeah, but
it's like,
it's a different world.
it's like the fact that it's a different world, you know, maybe Porter like doesn't understand that, because even I like struggle to understand it, because, you know, everyone I grew up with was going to play at places because like they loved where they were going to play, and now it's about like money, and I get it, but I also, it's just like for somebody who is trying to like adjust to that, I just can't imagine like how difficult that would be, especially if Porter doesn't have the resources.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why, in my mind, I think Porter's a great mid-high major coach. Like, I think mid-majors and high majors, they're still in that world of like, you can get a 3-star guy and he'll stick with your program for 4 years and you can make the tournament like 2 out of that player's 4 years if you develop them correctly. You know, if you're like an 11 seed, like a Loyola, literally. But like if you're a Power 5 program, well, Power 4 now, maybe even Power 3 in a couple years, which is insane to think about. Maybe even Power 2. You know, that's the state of sports that we're in. But like, you have to have some sort of attractability, whether it's cash, developmental nature of like, you know, a guy like NBA pedigree, or like that's really it now, you know, like guys are either going one and done, or they want to get paid, or they want an opportunity to compete at a high level. Like that's it. Porter hasn't made the tournament for 3 years. I don't think OU's NIL is you know, comparable. I mean, football wise, yeah, their NIL is probably great, but like basketball wise, I don't think, you know, if I'm an athletic director, I'm not pouring money into a non-revenue, you know, OU men's basketball probably doesn't even gain revenue. You know, they're giving out free tickets for people they're begging people to come watch the basketball games. Like, that's literally the state of it. Yeah. But yeah,
But looking to the future.
Sorry for my rant. I just,
you know, excited about Dayton Forsyth. He's a small guy, but he's like an Oklahoma native. Might show a little commitment to the university. You know, potentially. And I like his game. And, you know, Tony Perkins, who has OU in his top 6, that would be a great get for Porter. I've watched him all season. He attacks the glass. He can see the floor. He can move. He scored 2,000 points there during his 4 seasons there. So,
if he picks it,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like
he's definitely reaching out.
Yeah.
He's getting guys to like show some interest.
He's like a finalist.
And I feel like Porter can build relationships with players.
No, I
agree.
Definitely.
He's like guys like Porter. And they've said it all season. Like they're gonna fight for Porter Moser, but it's a matter of like if they'll stay for Porter Moser, because I mean Oklahoma, they're not going to stay for the university, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. Well, we will keep monitoring the state of OU basketball in the future, and the kind of mess that is right now.
Oh, man.
But anyways, that's all we have for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. We will be doing these weekly for the next couple weeks, at least through football spring camp.
I'll be gone by the end of May or beginning of May. This is the last you'll see of Jason Batacao. No more crazy takes.
No more cake batter
anyway,
takes.
no more hoping for a safety every week and predicting
Oh,
a
man.
safety to happen every
That's
week.
so sad.
That's a whole different thing, though. Thank you guys for
Thank
watching,
you.
listening. We out.
Peace out, everybody.